I'm Scarlett, and I hail from the heart of Dallas, Texas. I'm a 35-year-old woman. I have got a story to tell, so grab a seat and let me take you on a little journey through my life. It all began when I was 25, living the Dallas dream. I'm a Texas gal, born and bred, and back then, I was just your regular gal working at a local design firm. Life was pretty sweet, but then one day, while I was sipping on my go-to caramel latte at this cozy cafe near work, I crossed paths with what I thought was destiny. I met Nick, my husband, and let me tell you, he was one charming dude. He had just rolled into Dallas after wrapping up college in New York. This guy had a smile that could make ice cream melt in a snowstorm. We got to talking, and before we knew it, we were head over heels. We would chat for hours about everything under the sun, our dreams, our lives, and it felt like we had known each other forever. Love was in the air. A few years later, under the Texas sky, we made it official, tying the knot in a beautiful, intimate ceremony. Just a year after our sweet wedding day, our little Rex showed up. He was a bundle of joy with big blue eyes and the most infectious giggle you would ever hear. Our family was complete and life was perfect. My little Rex is 7 years old. He is a real firecracker, full of life and curiosity about the world. Watching him grow and explore life has been the greatest joy of my life. A year ago, I walked in on a scene that I had never thought I would witness. It was a devastating revelation. My husband, Nick, was cheating on me with none other than Bella, his best friend from college. You know, I always thought Bella was harmless. She had been around since forever, and there were moments when I questioned her proximity to Nick. But Nick, ever the smooth talker, used to tell me she was like a sister to him. I took Nick at his word, for my trust in him was unshakable, and I believed that our bond was equally strong. Bella would visit Nick from time to time, flying in for what Nick portrayed as innocent reunions. It struck me as odd, but I did not want to appear paranoid or irrational. I told myself they were merely best friends catching up. Then came that fateful day when I discovered the truth. Bella had flown into town for the weekend, and she was insistent about babysitting Rex while I enjoyed a much-needed outing with my friends. I decided to catch a movie and perhaps do some shopping, relishing the rare chance to unwind. Nick told me that he was called into his office on a Saturday, so he had no choice but to go there. My friends and I did watch the movie, though our shopping plan had been cancelled due to an unexpected change in one of my friends' schedules. I returned home a lot earlier than anticipated. As I walked into the house, a chill ran down my spine and my heart sank. There, right in front of me, was a sight I could never have imagined. Nick and Bella were kissing each other, and they both were all over the couch. "What the hell is happening here?" "Scarlett, what are you doing here? You were supposed to be here later." "Huh? Are you serious? This is my home, not yours. Also, that is my husband and not yours." "Scarlett, please, babe, this is not what it seems to be. I can explain." "I don't need your explanation. How long has this been going on for?" Nick looked at me in the eye and told me the truth. "Well, a while." "How much is a while?" Don't get angry, Scarlett. It was when you were pregnant with Rex. But it was an on and off thing, I promise." "Since I was pregnant? You were cheating on me while I was pregnant with our son? It has been 7 years. I am disgusted by you, Nick." "Scarlett, we never meant for it to last this long, but we love each other." "Love? I can't believe this. And where is Rex? Where is our son while all this is happening?" "I put him to bed earlier. I lied about the office call." "You put our child to bed and you were doing this while he was in the next room?" Scarlett, I know I messed up, but it was not like that. I never wanted to hurt you or Rex. Scarlett, please believe us. We are so sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, darling. I'll do anything in the world to make it up to you. Sorry? Sorry does not fix this. You have betrayed everything we had. Our family, our love, everything. And you, Bella? I let you into my house without ever questioning you, and you do this. You are nothing but a homewrecker. Scarlett, please, we need to figure this out. I love you and I don't want to lose our family. Love does not involve cheating. I need some time to think about this. I will leave. Oh, you surely will. Bella left in a hurry, and Nick decided to sleep in a different room for a week. The tension was suffocating and the silence was deafening. I was absolutely shaken. It was incredibly difficult to come to terms with what had happened. This was beyond disgusting. Nick, the man I had loved and trusted, had turned out to be a pathetic excuse for a husband. The ultimate betrayal was staring me in the face. For a week, we didn't talk. It was all cold shoulders and distant glances. The house felt emptier than ever, even though we were all under the same roof. I could not continue living like this, torn between the love I had for my son and the anger I had for my husband. So, after a week of soul-searching and sleepless nights, I made a decision. I had to choose my own well-being and that of my son over a man who had deceived me in the worst possible way. Nick, we need to talk. Scarlett, I am again very sorry for what happened. Save your apologies. I've made my decision. I want a divorce. Live here in Dallas or go to New York to be with the love of your life. I already know your office has a branch in New York City. You are out of this house. Ask them for a transfer or something. I do not care. I want you out. Scarlett, please let us not rush into this. I messed up, but I love you. Messed up? For 7 whole years? It never even occurred to you what you were doing to our family? It is not like that, Scarlett. Bella and I, we never meant for this to happen. But it did, Nick. You chose to betray me, your wife, with your so-called friend. You two love each other, you say? So go spend your lives together. I don't care about you anymore. Scarlett, please don't do this. I'm begging you. You lie at the lowest tier of the pyramid, Nick. You are a disgusting man. You don't deserve to be in this house any longer. What about Rex? He is staying with me, obviously, until the court decides what's going to happen. Scarlett, I don't want to lose my son. You should have thought about that before you made your choices, Nick. You have 1 week to figure out your situation and leave this house. Within a week, Nick decided to leave our city and live with Bella in New York. He transferred offices to be with her. I couldn't believe the audacity of Nick. After all that had happened, the way he moved on so quickly was baffling to me. The day Nick was leaving, he decided to have a little chat with Rex. Hey, champ, I need to talk to you. Daddy, what's up? Well, buddy, I have to go away for work. It is a special project, and I don't know how long it'll take. But why, Daddy? Sometimes grown-ups have to do things they don't want to. How long will you be gone, Daddy? I don't know, buddy. Goodbye. The first month without Nick was like a roller coaster of emotions. On one hand, it felt liberating to have the freedom to set our own routines without the cloud of his betrayal hanging over us. But on the other hand, there was a constant sadness knowing that Rex was growing up without his dad around. As a mom, I felt this immense responsibility to make sure Rex was okay during this adjustment. We created our own little world, filling it with new experiences to replace the gap that Nick had left. One of the toughest things I had to do during this time was contact a lawyer and file for divorce. It was a heart-wrenching process, but it was a necessary step to move forward. The pain was unbearable. Then, sometime later, I received a phone call from Nick. It was the very first time we had spoken since he left, and his voice sounded different, as if he had changed significantly. "Scarlett, it's been a while, hasn't it? I just wanted to let you know that Bella and I are doing really well. We are happier than ever." "Good for you, Nick." "You know, Scarlett, I've realized that you were not quite the woman I needed. You didn't understand me as Bella does." "Well, I'm glad Bella is the woman you need. So did you just call me to insult me like that?" "So here's the reason I called. I'm in Dallas and I want to pick up Rex. I miss him." 1 month has gone by and no phone calls. You did not even pick up any of Rex's calls, and now all of a sudden you miss your son? "We are not divorced yet, and Rex belongs to both of us equally. I'm taking him to New York City with me for a week. It will be good for him. I think it is essential for Rex to spend some quality time with his father. It will help him adjust to the changes." "I understand that, Nick, but we should work out a proper arrangement. We do not want to disrupt Rex's routine or create confusion." "Scarlett, I'm his father. I know what's best for him. I already bought his plane ticket. This is happening. I will drop by later tonight. Just pack a bag for him, will you?" "Sure." After my talk with Nick, I had to shift gears and prepare Rex for his week with his dad, so I packed a bag for him. You know, the essentials, his favorite toys, clothes, and that worn-out stuffed bear he can't sleep without. I wanted Rex to feel at home wherever he was. Then came the heart-to-heart talk. I sat him down and tried to make it as light as possible. I told him he was going on an adventure in New York City with his dad, and Bella would be there too. Oh, the innocence. And then I gave him his tablet and told him I would contact him about it. He was nervous and excited at the same time. Later that night, Nick and Bella came to pick Rex up. I watched them from the window as their car pulled up. "Bella, I did not know you'd be here too." "Well, Scarlett, you should have expected that. Bella and I are together now." "Yeah, Scarlett, we are very much together." "Look, this is not the time or place. I can't believe he'll be living with you and Bella." "You better believe it." "And one more thing, Nick. When you are with Rex, please don't tell him what's really going on between you and Bella. Don't put any ideas into his head. He's just a kid and he doesn't need to be caught up in all of this." "You are always overthinking things, Scarlett." "I'm just protecting my son." As they left, I was left alone with my thoughts. Life had been happening so fast with so many changes in just a couple of months. It was hard to catch up, you know. I could not help but think about Rex staying with Nick and Bella, especially Bella. Would he be confused about why his daddy was living with another woman? It was all so overwhelming. This was the first time Rex had been away from me for an extended period, and it made me a bit anxious. I knew he would be in good hands with his father, but I couldn't help but worry about how all these changes were affecting my little boy. Thankfully, I had a solid support system. My friends and parents were there for me, providing comfort and a listening ear when I needed it. I was incredibly grateful for them, and they helped me navigate the emotional roller coaster that was my life at that moment. For the next 4 days, I made it a point to video call Rex every day. Each time he picked up, it was like a little ray of sunshine. Sometimes he was out in the park with his dad, and on one memorable occasion, they were at Coney Island, riding all those funfair rides. Rex seemed so happy, and that was a relief. Bella was often there with them, and it was hard to see her interacting with my son. The pain was still fresh. On the 5th night of Rex's stay, when I video called him, my wildest nightmare came true. "Hey, champ, how was your day? What did you do? I've missed you." "We went to a museum, Mom. It was so cool. I wish you could have been there." "That sounds fun. Where is your dad, by the way?" "He's not home, Mom." "Oh, he's not? It is quite late, so you must be with Bella, right?" "No, Mom. I'm home all alone." "Wait, what? Is there a babysitter with you?" No, there's no babysitter, Mom. Rex, it is 10 at night. Did you eat something? Dad said he would get pizza on his way back home, but he's not back yet. Hold on a minute, sweetheart. I'll talk to your dad and find out what's going on. I was mad, furious even, at Nick. How could he leave Rex all alone? It was irresponsible and, quite frankly, unacceptable. My concern grew as I tried calling both Nick and Bella, but neither of them was picking up. It was as if the universe had conspired to send me into a panic. Desperation began to set in. I called Rex back, hoping to hear his little voice on the other end, but there was no answer. My heart pounded in my chest and fear gripped me like a vice. I could not help but let my mind wander to all the worst-case scenarios. Had something happened to them? Was Rex okay? My thoughts were racing a mile a minute, and all I wanted was to hear my son's voice, to know that he was safe and sound. I called all three of them again and again, but there was still no answer. At that moment, I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. Desperation drove me to pick up the phone and call Jordan, a close friend who worked in the airline industry. I explained the situation to him, the urgency of it all. Without hesitation, he assured me that he'd do whatever he could to help. I had to get to New York, to my son, as quickly as possible. Jordan worked his magic, arranging the earliest flights possible. The flight was scheduled for 4 in the morning, and the hours leading up to it were the longest and most agonizing I had ever experienced. At 3 a.m., I could not wait any longer. I knew I had to get to New York as soon as possible to find out what was going on and to make sure Rex was safe. I left for the airport in a hurry. As I sat there on the plane, I couldn't stop the tears from flowing, my heart pounding with panic and fear. The seat felt like a prison, the minutes stretching into hours. I knew where Bella's apartment was, having been there once during a visit, but finding my way there at that hour was a challenge, and the dark, quiet streets of New York City only added to my sense of urgency. It was 9 in the morning when I finally reached Bella's apartment. Exhausted, frantic, and terrified, I stood outside her door, my heart pounding. My knuckles hit the door in a hurried rhythm, each sound feeling like an eternity as I waited for someone to answer. Rex finally answered the door. It seemed like he had just woken up. I hugged him and held on to him, crying, "Rex, I'm so glad you're okay. I was so worried." "I was asleep, Mom." "Thank God you locked the door from the inside." "Dad told me to." "Rex, are Dad and Bella still not back yet?" "No, Mom, they're not here." "Well, sweetie, Mommy is first going to make you a quick snack and then pack your bags. You are coming back with me." I stayed at Bella's apartment with Rex until 1 in the afternoon. The flight back home wasn't scheduled until 3, and there was no sign of Nick and Bella. With each passing minute, my fury grew, and I could have throttled them both with my bare hands for their irresponsibility. I couldn't fathom how they could leave a 7-year-old child all alone and not have the decency to communicate with me. God only knows where they were, what they were doing, or why they had left my son unattended. I just wanted to get back to Dallas. We arrived back at our home in Dallas around 8 in the evening, and I could not help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. Still, there was no word from Nick. I had so many questions and so much anger, and a part of me was also worried for him. Then, after having takeout for dinner, I dialed Nick again, and this time he picked up. But this time, I was not letting him off the hook easy. "Hey, how's it going?" "I'm okay. It's been quite a day. Where have you been?" "I just got around to listening to your voicemails. You sounded concerned about Rex last night." "Yeah, I tried to reach out to him, but he was not responding yet. So, where is our son?" "Well, yeah, I noticed you called last night and this morning. We had a lovely pizza night, watched a movie, called it a night early, and today, we've been out all day." That is all well and good, but where's Rex right now? I really want to talk to him. He's not answering my video calls on his tablet. Rex is here with me, actually. We're having a great time playing together. Oh, are you? Hold up a minute. I handed over the phone to Rex and put it on speaker. Hey, Daddy. Oh my God, Rex. Hey, buddy, how did you get there? Mommy came to Bella's house in the morning and took me home. Rex, I'm really sorry for leaving you alone and not coming back last night. Give the phone to your mom. Rex, honey, why don't you go and play? Thank God he's with you. Bella and I were just about to go to the cops. Listen, I can explain. Nick, do you have any idea how worried I was? You left Rex alone overnight. I couldn't reach either of you. You didn't even bother to call a babysitter to watch Rex. What if something bad had happened? And on top of all that, you just lied to me. Scarlett, I'm sorry. We lost track of time. We were out partying with a few friends. Partying? You left our son alone to party? It wasn't planned. We had a few drinks and it got out of hand. Then our phones died and we couldn't contact anyone. We were so hungover we woke up literally in the evening. You just vanished. Do you know how irresponsible is that? You know, this isn't the first time something like this has happened, right? I know, Scarlett, it was a terrible lapse in judgment. We should have been more responsible. And you were hungover for what, the whole day? You decide to pick up my phone now? Weren't you a little bit worried about our son? Like I said, the drinking got a bit out of hand. Nick, there is no excuse for the danger you put our son into. You left our child alone, scared and worried. You will pay for this. Oh, you're threatening me? Blaming me for having a little fun? No wonder you're all alone and sad. Enough, Nick. I will make sure I get full custody of Rex. Oh, just keep dreaming. Little did Nick know that during our conversation I had been recording every word, capturing his excuses and apologies. I knew I needed evidence, and it was clear that this situation had spiraled out of control. After that day, I immediately contacted my lawyer to discuss the best course of action. I told him about how I wanted the full custody of Rex, and I had all the evidence I needed to prove the kind of dad Nick was. The evidence I had gathered painted a grim picture of Nick's actions, and the court took the matter seriously. The judge made it clear that despite his regret, Nick's actions were a clear breach of parental responsibility. I fought fiercely for my son's well-being, and the court recognized that Rex's best interests were my top priority. In the end, I was granted full custody of Rex, while Nick was given limited visitation rights. It has been 6 months since the divorce, and I've started moving on. I'm even seeing someone new. But let's get one thing straight. Rex is my number one. Always has been and always will be. Nick, well, he's pretty mad about the whole divorce thing. But then, out of the blue today, Nick called me up sounding all desperate and regretful. He drops a news on me. Bella cheated on him. Talk about a plot twist. He wanted me to take him back. Ha ha, what a joke. Well, they say what goes around comes around. And today, it seems like life's giving Nick a little taste of his own medicine. Hey there, I'm Izzy and I'm 28 years old. I just gave birth to my beautiful baby boy, and at the same time I decided to divorce my husband. It was a pretty painful time, but I can say that I'm gradually healing with every day that passes. I want to share my story because it's a good way for me to see just how strong I have become. To start with, Dan and I met 5 years ago because of my coworker. She and I are pretty close friends to date, and one day I was just telling her about how I missed being in a relationship. She then set me up with one of her good friends who was also looking for a relationship. Dan and I met at this cafe and we ended up actually having a great time. He had the same sense of humor as me and he was very chivalrous. We ended up going on a drive after the date, and we also discovered that we enjoyed the same kinds of music. Safe to say that one date led to many, many more dates where we continued to learn about the many more things we had in common. I truly believed that I had found the perfect man for me. I was never big on marriage, but when I was with Dan, I knew that I wanted to marry him. Yes, he was so good that I changed my views on something as big as marriage. We dated for about 1.5 years before moving in. Moving in with him only further solidified my want to marry him because he was so adaptable. Another year passed and Dan proposed to me at the cafe where we had our first date at. I was over the moon. After we got married, I was ecstatic to spend the rest of my life with him. We enjoyed our time together and traveled quite a bit. We both had good jobs that allowed us to live more than comfortably. It helped that we didn't have kids. But that changed pretty quickly because Dan wanted us to have kids. I guess we should have talked about kids before getting married because I wasn't planning on having any. I have a history with PCOD, and I knew that having a child would be a painful ordeal. But Dan kept insisting on trying. Okay, think about how awesome it would be to raise our kids. I mean, you get to shape an entire person. I completely agree that it would be amazing to do that, but I don't think pregnancy is something I want to go through. It's a life-changing experience, and I don't even know how my body will handle it. We have more than enough money to deal with every treatment and medication required. I promise that I'll make it super easy for you. I don't doubt that you'll make it easy. I mean, why do I even need any of the treatments and medicines if I don't get pregnant? Why do I even need to get pregnant for us to have a child? Why can't we adopt or even consider surrogacy? No, I want a child that is mine, and I don't want some random lady carrying our child for us. Please, Izzy, this will be the ultimate culmination of our love. I'll think about it, okay? I really didn't want it, but Dan just got more insistent with time. Eventually we went to the OB/GYN, and after a bunch of tests, the doctor told me that it would be possible and safe for me to carry a child. So with that, we began trying. It took a little while, but I did get pregnant. My pregnancy was pretty hard throughout. I was in constant pain and I was always tired. At the beginning stages of my pregnancy, it was bearable. I could still go out and about with just a little more effort and tolerance. But as I got further along in my pregnancy, I found it harder and harder to move around out of the house. Don't get me wrong, I still walked around our house, but that was the extent of it. I relied completely on Dan. I remember feeling bad that Dan was responsible for all the chores around the house, but at the same time, I was literally incapable of helping him out. And it helped that Dan never complained. At some point, I realized that Dan was overworking himself, and if he continued, he was going to burn out. I didn't want that to happen, so after he had settled down in bed one night, I talked to him about having someone stay with us to help me out. How are you feeling? Good, just really tired. But what about you? Do you need me to get anything for you? No, I'm all right. In fact, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I feel like I'm making you do too much work. Oh, honey, no. You're the one carrying a child. I mean, yeah, it's tiring, but I'm sure it's nothing like what you're experiencing right now. I agree, but I still want to make things a little easier for us. So I was thinking that we should have someone stay with us to help me out. Do you mean you want to hire someone or have family over? Whichever works best, I don't mind. Well, I was also trying to figure out a way to tell you this, but since you brought it up, I can say it now. Oh, what is it? My mom has been hounding me about coming to stay over so she can take care of you. I don't know about that, Dan. I mean, look, how about we have her over for a month, and if you don't want her there, we can hire someone. Or we can have my mom come over. You know that your mother doesn't like me, Dan. I'm happy that she wants to be involved, but I'm not having the best pregnancy. I don't have the energy or the mental capacity to deal with her antics. I know, but letting her stay with us for 1 month will also get her off my back. I kid you not, I've received a phone call from her every single day at the same time for the past 2 months. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to stress you out. I'm sorry, but dealing with her hasn't exactly been the easiest. Oh, you poor thing. I can imagine what she was like on the phone when you kept refusing to give in to her request. Okay, we'll let her stay here for a month. Not a day longer than that, though. Of course, I'll make sure of it. Dan's mom, Polly, and I didn't exactly have the best relationship. From the time we met, back when Dan and I were dating, she's been pretty hostile and aggressive with me. She has never failed to make me feel bad about myself. She would constantly make comments about my weight, my appearance, my personality. When we got married, her behavior only got worse. When she found out that I would continue to work after getting married, she lost her mind. She kept telling Dan about how I was being a disrespectful wife who didn't care about her husband. According to her, I should have stayed home and taken care of the house while waiting on my husband arm and foot. Of course, these are very outdated views, and I said so too. Of course, that led to her yelling at me for trying to brainwash her with modern, disgusting ideologies. Dan has tried his best to keep the peace between the two of us, although he's never really said anything against his mother. We used to have fights about it because I always felt like I was the one compromising, but he never ever asked her to make any compromise. But I ended up letting it go because I loved him and I didn't want to cause any problems with it. I did tell him that I would be actively avoiding his mother, and he could not change my mind about that. I guess he agreed with that because that meant less work for him to deal with. Polly and I have had the bare minimum conversations, but she did become a lot easier to deal with when I got pregnant. She believed that this pregnancy would force me to become the ideal housewife. I didn't want to start anything, so I didn't tell her that I planned to go back to work after I had the child. I was skeptical about her helping me out because even though she was nicer, it didn't mean that she wouldn't keep throwing insults my way. But I guess I also figured dealing with her for only a month would also make it easier for Dan, so I agreed. When Polly arrived, the first words out of her mouth were the state of the house. Ugh, look at the filth you guys are living in. Yeah, excuse the mess, I haven't had time or energy to clean up. You're the one cleaning up? What about Izzy? I'm currently heavily pregnant and I can barely stand, so Dan's helping me out, which I'm super grateful for. Who cares if you're grateful or not? My son isn't supposed to be working this hard for someone who does nothing but sit around and complain all day. Mom! No, you stay out of this. You've done enough for her. While I'm here, I'll whip her into shape. I really can't do much. Nonsense. I've been pregnant before and it wasn't that hard for me. Sure, but every woman experiences pregnancy differently. I'm glad you had an easy one, but I sure as hell am not. I'm so sorry that you have to deal with all this, Dan. Don't worry, I'm here now, and you won't have to do a thing. I rolled my eyes at her, but didn't say a word. I felt like Polly had a weird thing where she needed to prove that she was better than me for Dan, which was concerning. But it didn't affect my relationship with Dan, so I didn't really bother with it too much. The next few weeks were hell. Every time Polly did something around the house, she would make sure to tell Dan about it, while also telling him that all I did was sit and watch TV. Polly also never failed to yell at me for making up my struggles. She would keep telling me that I was just trying to get attention. I ignored it to the best of my abilities, but every once in a while I would retort back, and that would lead to a screaming match between the two of us. I tried to talk to Dan about it, but he would tell me to just bear with it for a little longer. This response was not really normal, but I did notice that Dan became a lot more distant. He would come back home from work and rush immediately to his mother's side. He barely bothered to check up on me unless I walked up to him. It bothered me, but I figured that I would just have to wait for the month to get over, and then I could get Dan back and we could have a discussion about what I had felt. But all of that came crashing down one night when over dinner, Polly and Dan told me that they had something to tell me. "Tell her, Dan." "Tell me what?" "So, Mom and I have been talking these past few weeks, and with the baby on its way, we realized that we won't get much time to spend together after. Plus, becoming a father has just made me so much more appreciative of her, so we've decided to go on a vacation together." "Vacation? But Dan, I'm 7 months pregnant. I can't do much without help. How am I going to make it through?" "Look, we need bonding time together. You'll understand it when you become a mother." "Dan, you absolutely can't go. I need you here." "Babe, we'll be back in a month. You definitely won't give birth in that time. I'll be here just in time for the birth." "No! How could you plan something like this without even telling me?" "Stop being a brat, Izzy. This trip is happening whether you like it or not. We're leaving tomorrow." "What? How am I supposed to get any help in such a short time?" "Don't worry, I called your mom over. I just really need this time with my mom, okay? She's been doing so much for me, for us, and this will be a great time to show her my appreciation and bond with her." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I took my dinner up to the guest bedroom and locked myself in there. I didn't want to see either of their faces. I just knew in my gut that the vacation was Polly's idea. The smirk she had on her face felt like a punch in the gut. Was that why Dan was being so distant? Because he was too busy planning a trip with his mother? How could he go on a trip when his wife was lying at home pregnant with his child? Even Polly, with all her outdated ideas, should not have been fine with the vacation happening at a time like that. I bet that she would not have been okay if her husband had gone on a trip without her when she was so pregnant. I cried myself to sleep that night, and when I woke up the next morning, the house was empty. There was a note on the bedroom door from Dan telling me that they had left and would be back in a month. At that moment, all I felt was rage. I wanted to destroy all of Dan's things, or at least cause some havoc for him to come back and deal with, but I was way too tired and sore to do anything. In an hour, my mother showed up. I just cried in her arms for the better part of an hour. She silently comforted me. She didn't know why she was called over, and she asked me where Dan was. "Is Dan at work?" "Nope." "Where is he then? Is this why you guys called me to help you out?" "Kind of, but not really. We had called Polly over because she begged to be here." "Uh-oh. Did she do something horrifying? Is that why you're crying so much?" "Yeah, well, she convinced Dan to go on a vacation with her." "Right now?" "They just left this morning." "And Dan agreed? What the hell?" "I'm so angry and so hurt, Mom. I don't know what to do with all these emotions." "Oh, my poor baby. I'm so sorry they did that to you. When will they be back?" "A month." "A month? Who the hell do they think they are?" You're telling me that Dan went on vacation when you were in your last trimester? He promised to be back in time for the birth, so I guess he thinks that absolves him of any other responsibility. That man is going to get a good piece of my mind. Cry it all out, honey. I'll be here. I'll support you no matter what. I was glad that I had my mom there with me because I genuinely felt like I was going crazy. My mom was an immense help to me for the next week. She pampered me like crazy. No request was too much for her. I finally felt like I wasn't a burden in any way. My mom kept reassuring me that whatever I was feeling and going through, both physically and mentally, was valid. And she tried her best to make me comfortable. I had entered my 8th month by then, and I was mentally preparing to give birth. But then, all hell broke loose. My water broke about a week into my 8th month. I was in active labor pretty fast. My mom drove me to the ER as fast as she could. While in the car, I kept trying to get a hold of Dan and Polly, but neither of them picked up the calls. I was frustrated and in so much pain. All throughout the delivery, I cried because Dan wasn't there. But it still felt good to not be alone, as my mom was there holding my hand through the entire thing. After giving birth, I experienced a lot of blood loss and I fell unconscious. Thankfully, the baby was perfectly healthy, although I had to spend the next few days in the hospital recovering. While I was recovering, my mom and I had a long discussion about what I planned to do when Dan and Polly came back. My mom tried to contact them too after I had given birth, but they didn't pick up her calls either. Even though it broke my heart, I decided that the best course of action was a divorce. It also helped that I was really angry at that point. I didn't want my baby's father to be someone who would abandon them at important times. Dan had shown me his true colors, and there was no way I would let that slide. He would choose his mother over anyone else, including his wife and child. I let his behavior slide one too many times, but I guess that holding my child in my arms put everything into a different light for me. I never wanted my child to ever feel the abandonment I felt when I was giving birth, and I knew that I wanted to protect my baby boy. Thankfully, my mom had a lot of lawyer friends who specialized in divorces. She contacted one of them, and I began the filing process. I also asked for full custody of the child because there was no way in hell that I would let my child spend more than a couple of hours with Dan. Throughout the entire process, my mom was my rock. By the time I was discharged, the filing was done, and all that was left was for me to hand Dan the papers. There was still a couple of days until they came back, so my mom helped me pack all my things up while simultaneously preparing her place for the baby. We slowly adjusted to our new routines with the baby at hand, who thankfully was a very quiet baby who made barely any fuss. Finally, on the day that Dan arrived, I handed my baby to my mom and asked her to go back home. I didn't want Dan to see the child because he did not deserve that privilege. When Dan and Polly walked in through the door, they didn't even notice me sitting in the living room. They laughed and talked amongst themselves about all the fun they had on their vacation. When Dan finally noticed me, he looked surprised. "Oh, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be resting?" "I think I'm pretty well rested." "So you did manage to survive without us. Told you she was making it all up for attention, Dan." I guess. Anyways, where's Tara? I'm sorry we missed all your calls. We decided to ignore everything related to home. "Oh, Mom's back at her place with the baby. She's coming back to pick me up right now." "The baby? What do you mean?" "I ended up giving birth at the time that you and Polly were away." "And you didn't think to tell us?" "I tried. My mom tried. You guys were way too busy bonding and ignoring everything home-related." Oh, honey, that's wonderful news. How is our baby? Is it a boy or a girl? It's a boy, and it's my baby. What do you mean? You weren't there during the time of the birth, so you do not get father privileges. I told you she'd do something because she was jealous. Don't be that way. Here, I don't want to be with you anymore. Divorce? Come on, Izzy. It was just a vacation. I promise I'll be here from now on. Well, you had bonding time with your mom, and now it's time for me to have bonding time with my son. How can you do this? You can't rob my son of seeing his child. I'm simply doing what you did with your son. Enjoy feeling what I felt. Oh, there's my mom. If you're going to contest this divorce, I'll see you in court. Good luck explaining your absence and ignorance of your mother's bullying to the judge. Goodbye. Dan looked devastated, and that made me feel great. I finally felt free. I realized just how important it is to have someone support you, because leaving someone and feeling like you're free is not supposed to be normal. But I was excited about my new life. I was excited to raise my child and teach him all the things I've learned. My mom was happy that everything went well, and we did have a small celebration at home that night. Dan and Polly kept trying to call me, but I ignored them, which made me feel even more petty because I was doing exactly what they did to me. Dan did try to contest the divorce, and he fought for more custody, but in the end, everything went my way. My state is a lot more partial to mothers, so I was glad that I was given full custody while Dan only got visitation rights every other weekend for 4 hours, along with having to pay for child support. My mom has been helping me out, and I will forever be grateful for everything she did for me. She's been the best mother and grandmother. She's helped me also find a part-time job where I could work from home while taking care of the baby. Life has been going good so far. I don't care to look up Dan or Polly, but every once in a while I will get a phone call from them and I answer it if I feel like it. So far, Dan has been consistent with his child support payments, but if he cuts down on them, best believe I will have his visitation rights taken away as well. I can't wait to see where life will take me after this, but I'm sure that with the right people by my side, I'll be able to get through anything. So bring it on. Hello, I'm Kate. I'm a 35-year-old woman who just freed herself from her toxic husband. Yes, it was so bad that divorcing him was like attaining freedom. But let me introduce you to my ex-husband, Chris. Chris and I met on a blind date set up by a mutual friend. I will admit that Chris is a very attractive-looking man who has a very charming personality. Right off the bat, he ticked all the boxes that describe the ideal man for me. We shared a lot of interest, and conversation between us flowed effortlessly. We spent a good 6 months just going out on dates without ever making it official. We would take turns planning out the dates, and we always managed to do something fun and exciting. After we made our relationship official, we continued to do that, and after a year of dating, we moved in. It was around that time that I became aware of Chris's financial situation. He didn't make a lot of money, and even though I gave him advice on how to grow his career, he never seemed to take it. But I didn't think it was that bad, considering he made a decent amount to support himself, and I was ready to carry over the rest of the costs. Anyway, after about 4 years of dating, we made a decision to get married, and a year later we decided to purchase a house. We used my name on the mortgage and deed because I had a much better credit score than Chris, and it was the best option back then. In hindsight, I am so grateful that Chris was on board with that decision. It was about 2 years into us being married that I noticed changes in Chris's behavior. He began to get a lot more demanding and stopped helping out around the house as much. Before, we equally split our chores, but then all that stopped because he always claimed to be too busy at work. I still let it all slide because I understood how tiring work could get. I picked up everything around the house, but at some point, it was tiring for me too. I talked to Chris about it and he would promise to help around, but a week later we were back to square one. It was frustrating, but I let it go because I loved Chris and I wanted to be able to provide for him in every way that I could. Things remained that way for about another 3 to 4 years. Of course, our relationship did take a downfall when it came to going out or doing things for fun because I never really had the time or energy to. Even so, it was still surprising to find out that Chris was cheating on me. I first discovered my husband was having an affair when he had left his phone unlocked while he was in the shower. I didn't mean to snoop, but as I was going to put his phone to charge, I saw a notification on his phone that piqued my interest. The notification was a message from someone named Leah. She was asking Chris how long till he left his pathetic wife to go and meet her in the nearby motel. I was shocked and devastated. Never in a million years would I have thought that Chris was cheating on me. There was nothing in our marriage that indicated that he was cheating. Every night when he got back home from work, he greeted me with warmth and love. Our relationship had been going great and we rarely ever fought. So why had he been cheating on me? I wanted to cry and throw up all at the same time. I felt my world crumble and fall apart. At that moment, though, I decided that I had to put on a brave face, so I left Chris's phone that way and let the chat be open so when he came out of the shower and checked his phone, he would know that I knew about his affair. When Chris did come out, he saw the unlocked phone and the chats and immediately figured out that I knew. He tried to avoid talking about it, but I was not going to let that happen. You know I know about your affair. Let's talk about it. I don't think we should. Who is it? I'm sure you saw enough to know what her name is. When did it start? A year ago? Can we seriously not do this? Why did you start seeing her? Babe, please, let's not do this. Don't call me babe. Tell me. I don't know why I'm doing it, okay? I guess I just missed the thrill of dating someone who's on the same wavelength as me. So, I'm not on the same wavelength as you? Well, I wouldn't say that exactly. You've just become boring. Excuse me? I mean, you never want to go out, nor do you ever make any fun plans when we do go out. You're always tired and we practically have no life in the bedroom either. You do realize that I'm always tired because I'm doing all the chores around the house and working. You've never once offered to help me out. Listen, that's just your duty as my wife. I told you to stay at home, but you refused to. That still shouldn't mean that you don't contribute to the house. I'm the man of the house. I get to do whatever I want. You get to do whatever you want, so you cheat on me? If that's what it takes to have some fun, then I will. I was hoping that we could talk about this and maybe start repairing our relationship, but clearly that is not going to happen. I don't think anything will change you being boring. I'm happy to stay married, but I will continue to see Leah. I need to be away from you for a while. I'm going to sleep in the other room. I couldn't bear to be in the same room as Chris the longer he spoke. It was clear that he was unapologetic. Aside from the fact that he didn't even want to talk about it, he made it abundantly clear to me that he did not view me as anything but a wife, whom he expected to do everything for him. Chris had never been one to have archaic views on gender roles, but there he was, I had a sneaking suspicion that it had to do with all these podcasts that he was listening to that involved a bunch of these men talking about how women have become too vocal and need to be put back in their place. It was sad to see Chris turn into one of those men, but it was equally heartbreaking to see him not even realize what he was turning into. I heard the main door open and shut shortly after. I went to the guest bedroom and I knew that Chris had left to meet his mistress. It was then that I finally broke down crying. I knew I couldn't spend the night all by myself. I was alone and hurting and I needed someone to hold me. I called over my best friend, Cass. Cass heard me crying over the phone and came over in a heartbeat. She brought with her tubs of ice cream and she held me while I cried for a long while. She didn't ask me what was wrong, but she just silently held me. Once I managed to calm myself down enough, I told her about what I had found out. Chris is cheating on me. What? Are you sure? Definitely. How do you know? His phone was unlocked and I happened to see him get a message from a woman who asked him when he was leaving his pathetic wife to go and meet her. What the hell? Did you talk to him about it? Oh yeah, I did. He didn't want to talk about it, but I forced him to. Turns out he's been cheating on me for a year because I became too boring. Boring? What does he even mean by that? He thinks I'm too tired all the time and that I don't do anything fun with him because of that. Don't you do everything around here? Yeah, I do. Which he didn't think was a big deal because that was supposed to be my duty as a wife. Wow. All right then. His duty as the husband should have been to go serve his country, but here he is, cheating on his wife. Cass. I'm just saying that his argument is stupid. Did he even try to apologize? Not for a second. He just blamed it on me and went to spend the night with Leah. Good, because I swear if I saw him, I would have wrung his throat. But do you know what you want to do now? Not really. Chris said he didn't mind being married, but I definitely don't want that. Great. I'll help you with everything after that. Why don't you come stay with me until everything settles down? That would be amazing. Thanks a lot, Cass. I'll always have your back, Kate. We spent the rest of the night just relaxing and watching a bunch of our favorite movies. I didn't forget about what had happened, but I did manage to distract myself long enough. The next morning, Cass helped me pack a bunch of my things up to take over to her place. While at her place, I decided to make the horrible decision to look Leah up. I had access to Chris's social media on my phone, so I decided to do a little snooping in on who she was. I hadn't ever felt the urge to go through his social media because he never gave me a reason to do it. I found out that he had muted all notification from Leah's chat, which would explain why I never caught any wind of the affair until then. Anyways, it turned out that Leah was a co-worker with his company. Or, to be more precise, she worked under him. She was 25 years old, which made her a good 10 years younger than me and 12 years younger than Chris. That was enough to gross me out even more. If anything, that solidified my decision to get a divorce from him. But I needed to get my things in order before I filed for divorce. Cass and I discussed how we could get back at Chris because we were not going to let him off the hook so easily. The first thing I did was to take out all of the money that I had put into our joint account and put it into my personal account, which Chris had no access to. The next thing was to file for divorce. It took a couple of days to get things in order, and in those days, I heard nothing from Chris. It hurt a lot to think that Chris didn't even care to check on my well-being, but then again, what could I have expected from a man who saw no worth in me? I eventually needed to go back home to get some more of my things. When I got there, I saw Chris sitting on the couch. He saw me and walked over to me. "Where have you been?" Why do I need to tell you about my whereabouts? Do you even know how worried I had been? And yet, I didn't receive a single phone call from you. Don't try to play nice right now. Do you really have to be such a jerk right now? I'm sorry, but I only recently found out that my husband was cheating on me because he thought I was too boring for him, and he seemed very unapologetic about it. Excuse me for being rude. The sarcasm just never ends with you, huh? I was just concerned about you, especially since you withdrew such a large amount from our joint account. Yeah, I took it because I put all that into the account. Why should I let you spend my money? Who do you think you are to do that? You will put that money back or what, Chris? You cheat on me with another woman? I don't care. No, I'll kick you out. I'll move in with Leah and I'll have my sister move in here. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Well, try me if you want. Put that money back in 2 hours or everything I said will happen by tomorrow. I didn't say another word to him after that. I just went to our room, packed up the rest of my clothes and other things, and made my way back to Cass's place. Once there, I told her all about my encounter with Chris. She was rightfully angry with me, and she told me that we needed to contact a lawyer. Cass had a friend who was a lawyer, and we asked him for advice. He asked whose name the house was under, and I said mine. Both the mortgage and the house title had only my name on it. I was the only one who paid the mortgage. It happened to be that way because I worked in a very niche field that paid a lot of good money. I easily made 3 times more than Chris, and we figured that was the best way to go about getting a house. Since that was the case, the house was mine. Everything that the house required was bought by me. The lawyer said that if we divorced, the house would be under my name anyway, so it wouldn't matter. And if Chris's sister moved in, all I had to do was submit an eviction notice to her, considering she did not have my consent to live there. I felt a breath of relief upon hearing that nothing could harm me in any way. True to his word, Chris called me the next morning to tell me that his sister had moved in because I hadn't deposited the money back into our account. I didn't say much to him, which angered him, and he hung up the phone. Upon the lawyer's advice, I also made sure to record every conversation I had with Chris, as anything could be used as evidence if needed. All that was left to do was follow my plans of action. I say plans because there were 2 ways of how things could have played out. Either I hand Chris's sister, Candy, the eviction notice and she does or she does not move out, and I sue her. Either way, I was winning. I knew that the latter would end up happening, though, because Candy and I didn't gel well together. Candy always harbored this hatred for me. She always tried to one-up me in everything, to the point where if she knew I was going to do or wear something, she would do or wear the same thing, but more extravagantly, so she would have all eyes on her. She even tried to sabotage Chris and I's wedding that day. We had gotten into a large number of fights over the years, which resulted in me going low contact with her. I only ever interacted with her because Chris begged me to. He was very overprotective of her and always spoiled her senselessly. Of course, when she found out about all the things I had achieved, she was furious and upset that she wouldn't be able to upstage me in that area. So she took to trying to steal things from me whenever she did come over. Many times I would find a bunch of my expensive clothes, shoes, and even skincare products missing right after she came over. Chris would beg me to not say anything because Candy did live rather frugally, and he thought that her taking some things was just her way of having at least some lavish things. I didn't agree with that thought process, but I let it go. That only made things worse, so I banned her from coming over. That didn't make either Chris or Candy happy, but Chris couldn't stop me because I had told him just how much she had actually stolen from me. And he knew that Candy had done way more damage than what was repairable. So when she moved into my house, she called me to gloat about it. "Hello, Kate. What do you want? Remember how you banned me from coming over?" "Yes, because you stole thousands of dollars worth of things from me specifically." "Who cares about that? Guess where I am right now?" Chris told me you moved in. That's right. I have this huge and glorious house all to myself, something you don't have. I think I still do have the house. I've already sent an eviction notice your way, and I'm giving you 3 days to move out. Ha! An eviction notice? From you? Like I'll follow through on it. This is my brother's house. He told me I can stay here, so I will. It's really not his house. Yeah. Marital property or whatnot, but he has all the power, and he decided this was the best thing to do. That doesn't mean... Gosh, you really can't stop talking, can you? I see why my brother chose another woman. Ugh. Well, okay. I have nothing more to say. Goodbye. I hung up the phone, but not before hearing Candy cackle on the other end. Well, if she didn't get out of there in 3 days, I was going to take her to court, and I was all lawyered up. Candy must have told Chris about our call, because an hour after I had hung up the call on Candy, he yelled at me for having the audacity to send her an eviction notice, but much like the previous time we were on call, I said nothing. Within the next 3 days, 2 things happened. The first was that I had the divorce papers delivered to Chris, and he decided that he wanted to contest it. The second was that Candy still hadn't moved, so I had a court summons sent to her. Legally speaking, she was a squatter, and she was shocked to find out that the house was in my name and not her precious brother's. I was there when she got the summons, and she yelled at me for tricking her. I told her that I did no such thing. I had given her ample time, and I had warned her to move out, but she refused to listen. She had to face the consequences of her actions. In court, my lawyer presented all the evidence, the eviction notice, and recordings of phone calls that showed me telling Candy to move out, and her refusing to do so. In my state, squatting is taken rather seriously, so Candy was charged with a Class A misdemeanor and was given a fine of $500 to pay. The look of utter defeat and humiliation on her face was very satisfying to see. After years of holding back, to see it all culminate to this made the wait worth it. Chris and Candy approached me after things had settled down with Candy. They came over to Cass's house to hound me for doing what I did. How could you do that to my little sister? Your little sister has been terrorizing my life for the past few years, and I shut that down in the best way possible. A decision you agreed with. Yet the second I grew a spine and told you no, you went right back and pulled her into this. That's your fault. I only did that because she had nowhere else to go. She got evicted and I was doing her a favor. So the house suddenly became an option because we were going to separate? If we weren't, would you have snuck her in? Well, save it, Chris. I don't want to hear anything more from you. I'll just see you in court. How is the house even in your name? Your brother's name isn't on any of the documents, and I have been the one paying off the mortgage along with other repairs meticulously for the past 5 years. No matter how much your brother contests it in court, he won't get any ownership of the house. All he'll get is a much lighter wallet. You set him up. I just know you did. I didn't do anything. Your brother firmly believes in being the man of the house, so he should have taken up all the roles that I did, but he would much rather me do all the hard work while he reaped the benefits. Thank God that this is no longer going to be a problem for me. Goodbye, you two. I slammed the door in their face, and that was that. Over the next few weeks, Chris decided that since he wasn't going to get the house, he was going to fight over every single possession that we had, down to our dessert spoons. But I had no worries about it. Whatever furniture he wanted and claimed was his, I had all the receipts of who paid for what. He truly was going to only get what he contributed to, which was not much. While he was busy lobbying for all our things, I decided to send the screenshots of his inappropriate relationship with Leah to Chris's HR. Within a week, he was let go, and surprisingly, Leah wasn't. I found out through some of Chris's colleagues whom I was friends with that she had claimed that he had forced her into the relationship. Otherwise, he would not have given her projects. Needless to say, that relationship did not last after that. It took a couple of months, but the divorce was finalized and I was officially a free woman. I decided to throw myself into work, but not before celebrating for a long while with Cass for being able to kill two birds with one stone. The last I heard, Chris and Candy were living together in some rundown apartment while still searching for jobs. Their parents send them both a small budget to live on, but aren't happy with what they did. I know about that because my in-laws called me to apologize for their behavior. Since I'm now free, I am looking forward to what more life has to offer me. There was one thing I learned through all of this. It's to never ever forget my worth, and also that I am a horrible person to mess with. Cheers! Hello everyone here. My name is Irina, and today you will be hearing about my mother-in-law, Sue. She is your typical monster mother-in-law from hell, who was dead set to remove me from her son's life. Did her plan work? No, but she tried hard. Since you guys love mother-in-law stories so much, I thought my story would entertain you a bit. Also, if you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, my story will tell you what to do. So, me and Emmett, my now husband, dated for 4 long years. We met through a mutual friend, and the rest is history. He is a great man and equally handsome. I was surprised to see him single and didn't know what was up. When I started to date him, I knew why he was single. He did give me a small warning. He said, "I want you to meet my mom, but I'm not sure. Don't get me wrong, Irina, I'm sure about you and about us, but not my mom." "Why, Emmett? What are you so worried about?" "She won't react positively to our relationship. I don't want you to get this wrong. It's not like you are the wrong candidate or something. Mom just doesn't like when I bring a woman home." "Seriously? But you are past 20 now. Why would she have a problem with that?" "Well, I grew up with my mom alone since my father left before I was born. My mom just fixated on me a lot. It makes her jealous to see another woman in her life." And that was only a small warning, which didn't even come close to the real deal. God, Sue was a mad woman. I don't even know how to put this politely. She is absolutely insane. When Emmett finally took me to meet Irina, she didn't talk to me or even look at me the entire dinner. It was really embarrassing and awkward for everyone. Emmett tried to include me in the conversation, but Irina just ignored me and changed the topic. She was stonewalling me. When I asked her something directly, she would stay quiet and talk only to her son. That woman was determined to show me my place. Emmett apologized to me 1,000 times after leaving the dinner. He did it over the phone since he had to drive his mom home. Did I mention that he lived with her? Yeah. Sue would pull health scare stunts and cry a river whenever he wanted to move. My poor husband was conditioned to put his mom over everyone else and didn't have any other choice but to stay back. As we moved forward with our relationship, Sue started to become even more hostile. She kept telling Emmett to break up with me and all kinds of shit. She even blackmailed him when I asked him to move in with me. I could write a novel about her antics. I put up with her horrible behavior because I loved Emmett, and he loved me too. But things got worse after I married Emmett. On my wedding day, Sue walked up to me and said, "Don't be so happy, Irina. This marriage will not last a year. I will make sure of it." What? What are you saying, Sue? Who says things like this at a wedding? I don't care about your stupid wedding. You will never steal my son away from me. I can promise you that. I will make sure this marriage dissolves, and then I will have my son back where he belongs. Emmett loves me and I love him too. Don't you want your son happy, Sue? My son was perfectly happy with me. He didn't need you in his life. I don't care how you managed to trap him, but you won't be here for long. I won't allow some woman to take over my son. I am and will be the only woman in his life. I hope you remember that. Her words made me cry on my wedding day. As if this wasn't bad enough, she also cut up my wedding veil and threw out my flower bouquet. It was a disaster, but I and Emmett still got married. Emmett tried to get his mom to apologize, but that apology never came. What was worse was the fact that we had to live in Sue's house after the wedding. On my wedding night, I cried to Emmett and said, "I can't do this, Emmett. I love you and really want to marry you. I want this marriage to work, but I can't stay here. I can't have Sue in our lives. I'm so sorry for my mother's mistakes, Irina. You know I am the only one she has. I cannot cut her off. Please understand my situation. Sue will make my life hell in her house, Emmett. Can't you see that? I will be miserable here. I already am. I promise I will figure out something about the living arrangements. I won't let you suffer for long. Please, just give me some time." Emmett assured me that he would do something as soon as possible. He did keep that promise. Within 3 months, Emmett took a job opportunity in another country. The pay was exceptionally good and he decided to take it. Sue wasn't happy and threw some major tantrums. But she calmed down when Emmett said that she could come and visit. He flew out soon while I was all set to fly out to him after a month. Thankfully, that month, Sue ignored me a lot. She never talked to me and did her own thing. I thought that maybe I could have a quiet month before I leave for good. I would worry about Sue coming there later. Well, fate had other plans. It was just a few days before my flight was booked to my husband's country. I had a strange feeling when I saw Sue sneak into my room. She thought that I wasn't looking or even in the room. I was actually in my closet with the door half closed, so she couldn't see me, but I could see her. Imagine my surprise when Sue sneaked into my room while I was quietly packing my stuff. I stayed silent and observed what she was doing. When I saw Sue reach my bag of documents and take out my passport, I was immediately on alert. She took my passport and happily left the room. I came out of the closet and tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Well, I went to the living room to find my mother-in-law discussing her evil plan with a friend on the phone. I was shocked to learn what she was about to do to my passport. I quickly went to her room and saw my passport lying in a black pencil case. Something came over me and I took out my passport to replace it with hers. Then I went back into my room and called Emmett. I said, "Your mother has just tried to burn my passport, Emmett. She came into my room and took my passport. She thought I wasn't there, but I was in the closet packing my stuff. I overheard her plan when she was telling a friend on her phone." "Whoa, what are you saying, Irina? Mom tried to ruin your passport? This can't be true." "Oh God, it can't be true." "This is true, Emmett. I wish it wasn't. I have my passport safe with me, but I replaced my passport with hers. I wanted to give you a heads up about it." "My mom can't do this, Irina. I'm sure she'll be back out." "Why don't we find out? I will make sure I have proof. In that case, I will make sure she never stays in our lives." I knew that Emmett would have a hard time believing the truth. It was his mother after all. I didn't blame him, and I knew I could prove everything to him. Sue liked to boast, and she would spill the beans to me to make me sad. It was only a matter of time. I made some plans and quickly packed my stuff. I was waiting for an out to leave this place for good. The next morning, Sue seemed to be in a good mood. She was cheerful and kept giving me smirks. I knew that this was the time to use her cocky behavior against her, so I sat down and said, "Hey, Sue, have you seen my passport anywhere? My flight is in 3 days and I cannot find it anywhere." "Ah, your passport. I think I know where it is." "Oh, really, Sue? Thanks for finding it. I must have misplaced it. Can you give it back to me?" I already knew where my passport was. I was just baiting her. I wanted her to spill the truth about what she was going to do to my passport. And Sue took the bait without even being suspicious. She looked at me and laughed at first. Then, with the meanest voice she could muster, she said, "No, I can't, Irina. I have destroyed your passport so that you cannot live with my son in another country. It had been burned to ashes. Now, you will be forced to stay here while I go and have a good time helping my son build his life there. Things will be just like they were before you came into the picture." "Oh, really, Sue? You think it will be that easy to remove me from my husband's life? Have you forgotten the fact that I am not his girlfriend anymore? I am his freaking wife." Divorces happen to a lot of people, Irina. Not all marriages are meant to last a lifetime. It will be easy for me to get rid of you now. I will be around Emmett a lot of times, while you sit here unable to do anything. A few months in, I will be able to convince him to leave you. Then there will be nothing holding us back anymore. This time, I won't allow him to bring in worthless people to replace me again. The way Sue had planned this entire thing was disgusting and amusing at the same time. She was so hell-bent on being the only woman in her son's life that she was ready to do anything. All this while she had been quiet because she was planning this whole thing. It's really impressive how fast she can come up with a plan to destroy my marriage and her son's life. She was confident that her son would listen to her and divorce me straight away. I can see why she would think that. I mean, they would be far away from me and I would be able to rarely visit. By the time I can get my passport back, it will be too late. It was a brilliant plan, I'll give her that. But there was a big flaw in it. She didn't even think about it, so I decided to enlighten her. I said, "That's a nice plan you've got there, Sue. I'm very impressed, but it is not going to work. Sure, you did destroy a passport, but..." "Oh yes, you can always get a new one, but it will take months. I will just need a little time to convince my son. After that, no passport will be able to help you." "Why would I need a new passport, Sue? My passport is perfectly capable of doing its job, but I don't think yours can, though. So it looks like now you can't go live with your son." "Excuse me? What are you talking about? I have my passport and plane tickets ready. I will be leaving in a few days." "You can't do that if you don't have your passport with you, Sue. Meanwhile, I have my passport with me just fine." I pulled out my own passport and showed her. Yes, it was authentic and it was mine. I showed it to her but didn't let her touch it. I wasn't going to be that stupid. I let her see and watched as her face showed complete confusion. It was like she couldn't comprehend how my passport got back from the grave and was in my hands. She looked shocked and said, "Wait a damn minute. How is that possible? No, this must be fake. I destroyed your passport with my own hands. I made sure it was burned to ashes. This can't be real." "Unfortunately for you, Irina, my passport is in perfectly good condition. Not a single flame of fire has touched it. But I can't say that for you." "What are you talking about, Irina? My passport is also perfectly all right. Wait, I'll get it and show you." Sue went to her room to retrieve the passport. She left in haste and looked confident, but when she came down a few minutes later, she looked panicked and scared. She said, "What the hell, Irina? Where the hell is my passport? Did you steal it? This is not funny, Irina. Give me my property back. You can't do this to me. I didn't take your passport, Sue, but I do know what happened to it. Tell me where my passport is. Tell me right now. You burned it with your own hands, Sue. Have you forgotten the events that happened last night? You took your passport out, put it in the fireplace, and watched it burn. You looked really happy back then. No, that can't be my passport. No, that's not possible. That can't be mine. I checked. Yes, you checked when you stole my passport and took it to burn it. But in your haste, you forgot to check it one more time before throwing it into the fire. Thankfully, I knew what you were up to and quickly swapped my passport with yours. It was easy. You had it right beside mine. Sue looked like I had shot her in the chest. She clutched her chest and looked like she was about to have a panic attack. And I was in no mood to help her at all. She looked stricken with panic and fear. Sue also had tears in her eyes and didn't know what to do. She said, "You monster! How could you do this to me? Oh my God! How will I get to my son?" Wow, Sue, it is okay for you to destroy my passport, but I am a monster because I replaced it with yours. That's rich coming from you. Also, I don't think you need to worry about joining your son anymore. What? What are you talking about? This is not over. I will get a new passport and tell my son what you have done. I will do everything in my power to make you pay for this. A replacement passport won't do you much help, Sue. I don't think your son would want you to come to his place anymore. Emmett would like to say something on this matter. I picked up my phone and turned on the call volume. Sue thought that I would confront her without having a witness. Well, that wasn't going to happen, of course. So I called Emmett and put him on speaker. I also made sure to tell him to mute the call while you turned down the call volume so that Sue doesn't know there is someone on the phone. And boy, it worked wonderfully. Sue went from looking angry to crying when she heard my husband say, "What the hell, Mom? What the hell did you try to do?" "Emmett, I just wanted to come see you. And look, your wife has destroyed my passport intentionally. She wants to separate you from me, Emmett." "Oh no, Mom, that won't work on me anymore. She didn't do anything. You are the one who destroyed the passport, and you are the one who tried to ruin my marriage by separating me from my wife. Although I am surprised to hear that you think you can convince me to leave Irina. I love her, and nothing will make me divorce her." Sue knew that she had been caught. She was in a tight place with no idea how to get out of this situation, so she started to justify her actions, and oh God, her excuses were just hilarious. She just showed how deranged and crazy she is. She started to sob and said, "Emmett, son, you need to understand why I did it. She really does want to separate me from you. Do you remember how happy we were when it was just the two of us? She came and destroyed everything. You moved away to get away from Irina." "No, Mom. I moved away to get away from you. Everything was perfect until you started to mess up my marriage and kick Irina out of my life. I told you multiple times that I am happy with her. But no, your selfishness didn't let you choose your son's happiness over yours. What kind of a mother are you?" "Emmett, don't say that, dear. You're breaking your poor mother's heart. Irina is poisoning you against me." "Irina has been nothing but patient with you. You don't get to blame your evil deeds on my innocent wife. God, I don't know how you could do this to your own son. You know what? I don't even care anymore. Irina is right. I don't want you to come here. If you do, I will throw you out. I want nothing to do with you anymore." Hearing this, Sue started to bawl. She was slowly becoming uncontrollable while she begged Emmett to forgive her. She was desperate to get back into his good graces and started to make stories about how I was abusing her at home. Emmett knew that all those stories were bullshit and said so himself. My dear mother-in-law kept crying and pleading with Emmett not to do this to her. Meanwhile, my friends arrived at the door and were ready to move my packed stuff to their house. There was no way I would stay with Irina any longer. I would be gone that day itself. They started to haul my stuff into their trucks while Irina continued to bawl in front of the phone. Finally, Emmett said, "Irina, do you have your stuff out of the house?" "Yes, I do, Emmett. Don't worry, your mother will not be able to destroy anything of mine anymore." "Good. Now go with your friends and stay there till your flight. Leave Mom be and don't entertain her anymore. I'm hanging up. Call me when you are out of the house." Sue heard our interaction and started to panic again. She looked like the deranged woman she was. She said to Emmett on the phone, "Emmett, son, please don't do this. Don't abandon me here. Please forgive me." "Stop, Mom. Just stop. I don't want to listen to your bullshit anymore. Lose my number, Mom. I don't want to see you or hear from you again. I will be blocking your number on all forms of communication anyway. Irina will do the same, so don't try to harass her." "Emmett, please don't do that. I can't even reach you anymore. I can't clutch your feet and beg. Please don't shut me out. Let's talk this through." "We have done plenty of talking before, Mom. Not anymore. You are an independent woman who can live without your son, and I am an independent man who can live without his mom. We don't need to be in touch anymore. Don't bother." Emmett said that and ended the call. Sue panicked and ran to her own phone to try and call him. We took that opportunity to run for the hills. We all got into the truck and drove far, far away from Sue and her craziness. I called Emmett on my way and he picked up instantly. I said, "I'm out of the house, Emmett. I'm safe. Don't worry." "Thank God. I'm so sorry, Irina. I never should have left you there. Even if Mom had destroyed your passport and come here first, her words wouldn't have swayed me. I wouldn't have divorced you. You know that, right?" "Yes, I know that, Emmett. I trust you. Speaking of Sue, I take it that she is blowing up your phone?" "Yeah, she is. Don't worry, she's blocked. And I am going to inform everyone in the family about her latest deeds. Trust me, everyone will be on our side. Just be careful for the next few days and fly here as soon as possible." I flew down to Emmett a few days later. My flight was exactly 3 days later, and I reached Emmett the next day. I was careful not to go out much and enjoy the peace and quiet at my friend's place. I couldn't take all my stuff to the new country, so I asked my mom to come and collect it. She would rent a U-Haul and take my stuff to her city. My friends were a big help and managed to keep Sue away from me until I left. Since then, Emmett and I were able to settle in just fine and were thrilled to start our new life. It feels good to be close to my husband after being away for so long. I will now tell you what happened to my dear mother-in-law. After I left her alone, she kept trying to contact me and Emmett, and we kept blocking every new number she bought. The extended family was already informed about her obnoxious behavior, and they all cut her off. I don't blame them. Who would want to keep in touch with a psycho like that? Anyway, Sue filed for a replacement passport and came to our country. But she doesn't know our address, so it was a waste of time. She did show up at Emmett's workplace and was escorted out by security. She threw such a big tantrum and the cops were called and she was promptly sent back to her country. She won't ever get a visa here again, so we will be free from Sue for a very long time. Hello everyone, this is Zoe. I have a Thanksgiving story to share with you guys where me and my new family absolutely destroyed my nasty mother-in-law, Erin. My husband, Aidan, his sister Sammy, and the rest of his family actually helped a lot to set things in motion. I will tell you what happened, but first you need to know what led to this story happening. Erin has always hated me, Why? Well, I had drug addict parents and grew up in foster care. Now, I went to school, got good grades, graduated college, and even had a good job. Did that make me a good person in Erin's eyes? No. She was absolutely convinced that I didn't deserve her son. She said, "A woman of such a messed up family background can't be my daughter-in-law. Aiden, did you forget that you come from a wealthy and well-respected family? We are of high status and can't pollute our reputation with a woman like her." Mom, what the hell are you even saying? You need to change your perspective on things. This is very offensive. Zoe is a great girl. Erin, I know my family isn't the best and I didn't grow up under the best circumstances, but that doesn't define me. I worked hard to be where I am. I will prove myself. Oh, please, Zoe, don't get ahead of yourself. Aiden and our family are way above you, and I am sure you picked and trapped him because of his reputed family and his wealth. I know girls like you well. Aiden and I tried our level best to make her change her mind. His father was long dead and didn't have much family left. He had been close to his mom and really didn't want us to have a bad relationship. Growing up without loving parents made me hungry for Erin's approval. I wanted to have her as a true mother-in-law. I extended invitations for dinner, tried to converse with her, and many more. Nothing worked. Every time she was around me, she would covertly insult me, sometimes directly to my face when few people were around. That's my mother-in-law for you. Her nasty behavior was somewhat kept hidden from her family. They were very wealthy with strong family values and really loved me. So Erin wasn't brave enough to directly insult me in front of them. But she regularly did it in front of Aiden and Sammy. Aiden and Sammy defended me, but that's all they could do. I was desperate to get her approval, and Aiden really wanted that too, so we never cut contact with her. A big mistake that we remedied less than 1 year into our marriage. Despite Erin being against the union, me and Aiden got married. There were lots of yelling matches that I won't get into now, but there is one detail you should know. The family loves hosting family dinners, and Thanksgiving dinner is a huge deal. It happened at Erin's place with family only. I was never invited, and Erin always gave everyone the excuse that I wasn't family yet. After we got married, everyone expected that to change. So when Erin only invited Aiden to the dinner, we were shocked. Aiden was super upset, while I just felt defeated. One day when Sammy came to visit and Aiden said, "Sammy, do you think Mom has forgotten to invite Zoe? Is there a possibility that she just forgot to send her an invitation too?" Wait. Mom didn't send Zoe an invitation? She said that the invitations were done. What the hell? I think she doesn't want me at her house for Thanksgiving dinner. I kind of expected that, but was hoping she would come around. That is freaking horrible. You two are married. She can't just not invite you for no reason. Mom is being a huge witch again. I'm thinking of calling her. I am seriously hoping that she has a good explanation for this. We can't just overlook her slight this time. Zoe has been through enough already. It was decided they would be calling Erin. I didn't have the energy to deal with Erin. I had given up. So it wasn't me who confronted Erin. It was Aiden and Sammy on a joint voice call. I was a mute listener that Erin didn't know was present. Aiden had said, "Mom, we're confused why you didn't invite Zoe to the Thanksgiving dinner. Your invite says that it's only for me and not Zoe." Yes, Aiden and Zoe are married now, as she is family. I don't understand why you only invited Aiden and not Zoe. That woman isn't family. I made it clear to you when you married her. Aidan, I don't understand why you two are so surprised that she isn't invited. What do you mean that Zoe isn't family, Mom? She is my wife, which means she is family. I made my stance clear to you a long time ago. Aidan, you married a woman I don't support of. You knew my disapproval and married her anyway. You should have known that there would be consequences. A lowly woman like her cannot be family to me, so she didn't get an invite. There it was again. Erin was the monster and mother-in-law that I knew her to be. Look, I tried my best to change her mind and even went through extensive humiliation to get her approval. But my lowly birth made it impossible to change her mind about me. It was bizarre how there was only one freaking person in Aidan's entire family who hated me because of my background. It was just ridiculous. I didn't know if Erin was stubborn and trying to be petty or if she was just that vile. It made my head spin. Aidan cast me a very sad and apologetic look that made me want to comfort him instead. His mom's words hurt him more than me. That man loved me like I was the best person in the whole wide world. There was no way I was blaming my poor husband for trying to make us all get along. My sister-in-law, Sammy, was furious on my behalf as well. She said to Erin, "Mom, are you out of your mind or something? Stop saying that Zoe isn't family. She is family to us, to all of us. You will not speak about her like that." My, Sammy, what has gotten into you? Has that little witch managed to turn all my children against me? See, I was right about her. She is a good-for-nothing girl. Stop, Mom, just stop. I've heard enough. For the past year, I tried my level best to change your mind. Zoe has done her best to prove herself to you, but all you have done is insult her. I see now that I made a grave mistake by telling her to try and win you over. We wasted our efforts for nothing. You should have put in the effort to find a better bride for yourself and impress me. For years, I have tried to model you, to choose the right partner, but I see I have failed. That which has you trapped, just like I imagined. You will not speak about my wife like that, Mom. Zoe has done nothing to make you act this way. You know what? Have it your way. If Zoe is not worthy of being your family, you are not worthy of being family to me. You can consider my Thanksgiving invitation declined, and actually, I don't think I would show up to any of the events you host in the future. There was a stunned silence on Erin's end. I guess she was trying to gauge if Aidan was bluffing or speaking the truth. Erin was convinced that she had Aidan wrapped around her fingers, but Aidan had already proven that wrong by marrying me. She was clinging to the hope that he wouldn't follow through with the words. Still, Aidan's words offended her. She said, "I understand that you are angry because you think you're in love with Zoe. But if I were you, I would rethink my words. The day when Zoe would betray you and take all of your money, you will need your mom. I know people like her. It's what they do. Don't throw away your poor mother to defend trash like her." My wife is not trash, Mom. You will understand that one day. But for now, I can tell you for sure that I won't be around you anymore, and neither will Zoe. You can't do that, Aidan. You need to show up for Thanksgiving. It's your special family day. Like I said, Mom, I don't consider people family who don't consider my wife's family. Same for me. I consider Zoe's family, so you are also upsetting me by not inviting her. Count me out as well. I won't show up. You two have lost your mind. The invitation is on the table and I will be waiting for you. You will come to your senses and show up. Don't hold your breath, Mom. Aidan said that and hung up. I sat there silently while he couldn't even look at me. We sat in silence for a while until Sammy arrived at the house as well. I guess she wanted to give us some moral support. The talk that followed was super emotional, so I won't be sharing it here. But I will tell you what we discussed at the end of our conversation. I said, "You guys don't have a sacrifice family time for me. I will be fine. I will join one of my friends or take a double shift at the office. I won't be lonely or sad, I promise." "You don't have to do that. Zoe, it's my mom who's wrong. You don't have to compromise for her every time. And you won't have to be alone. You will spend it with your family. That is me. We won't have to join my mom's horrible dinner anymore." "And me as well, Zoe. Like I said, I won't go to Mom's place this Thanksgiving. In fact, I don't think I will ever go there again. We will stay in and do our own thing." I was truly touched by what they said. They were literally to ditch the entire family just to make sure I was not lonely on Thanksgiving. I sure knew then what I was thankful for that year. Erin's words didn't hurt as much anymore. It did stir some anger inside me, but I managed to keep it down. I wasn't going to stew in anger for a worthless and vain woman like Erin. Suddenly, I had a bright idea. I said, "Why don't we have our own Thanksgiving party? I know it's just the three of us, but we can still make it work. I can make a good turkey, so dinner won't be a problem. The only problem will be eating leftovers for a week since it's just the three of us." "I think that's a great idea, actually. Wow, I never thought of actually having a separate party altogether, even if it's 3 people. We can maybe invite some of our office colleagues who can't go home for Thanksgiving. I have some friends who would like to join as well. Mom never allows us to invite anyone over who is not family. They will be different. It will be new and special, and it will deflate Mom's big ego." Aiden and Sammy seemed genuinely excited about having a separate plan. It was true that Erin was very strict about the guest list and didn't allow people who were not family, not even close friends who needed company. She was a freaking hypocrite. Anyway, I was pretty happy with our plan until Sammy suggested we do something better. She said, "You know what, Zoe? Let's invite everyone else in the family as well." "Actually, I've been thinking about the same thing. They deserve an invite too. They have done nothing wrong. Everyone loves you except my ridiculous mother." "I don't know, guys. Will that be okay?" "We will extend invites to them and explain the issues. They would want to know why you are not coming to Mom's Thanksgiving dinner. We won't lie about what happened. We will just give them a choice and let them decide." Now, this is some murky territory there. Did I want to be petty and invite the whole family? Yes. Did I want some sweet revenge by having some family show up to my Thanksgiving dinner instead? Yes. But I never did anything this petty before. It was then I realized what a doormat I have been to Erin and a lot of people in my area. I rarely stood up for myself or taught people a lesson. I can't do that anymore. I needed to grow a spine just like Aiden and Sammy. So with a glint in my eyes, I said, "Let's do it! Sounds like a good plan. You were right. The family is bound to ask why Erin's own daughter-in-law was missing from the party. We won't hide anything. She doesn't care about my feelings. Why should I care for her? You don't have to anymore. I think it's time we all cut ties with Mom. She's becoming even more toxic than before, and I am getting tired of her shit. I'm contemplating giving no contact for a while. Count me in. I could use some time away from Mom's drama and ridiculous judgments, so we will stick to this plan and send invites. Don't worry, Zoe, I will help you as best as I can. This Thanksgiving will be epic." Sammy was right. The Thanksgiving dinner was epic. I will slowly tell you why and how. But first, let me tell you what we did. We invited everyone we could think of who didn't have Thanksgiving invitations. We invited colleagues and friends, and even Sammy got some of her friends who couldn't afford flight tickets to their home state. We also sent out invites to all family members along with a short explanation of why we are hosting a separate party. Our recorded conversation with Erin came really hard for people who wanted to know more. Surprisingly, everyone was furious on my behalf and genuinely reconsidering going to her place. With all the hustle and bustle, we worked hard to arrange a good spread. We did good and had a blast on Thanksgiving. It was the best I had in my life. Now, I know you were curious about what happened to Erin and my revenge against her. Here is something I didn't expect until Thanksgiving Day. I thought at least some family members would go to Erin's dinner. Nope. Everyone turned down her invitation. Not one family member went to her party or even wanted to go. How did I know? She called us, of course. She called me and Aiden in panic. She said, "What is going on? Why didn't anyone show up to my house? I arranged everything as usual, but everyone said that they were going to your house instead." Did they now? That might be a possibility. What do you mean? They were serious. You were hosting a Thanksgiving dinner and everyone is attending yours instead of mine. Since I didn't get an invitation anywhere to attend Thanksgiving dinner, I hosted one for myself. I invited Aiden and Sammy because they told you they won't be going to your place. One thing led to another, and here we are having the entire family and our friends over. Erin gasped like she had been hit by someone. I guess she was hoping that her family was pulling a big prank on her. No one ever misses her. Thanksgiving dinner before. Erin's pride didn't let her believe that the family would choose someone else over her. So she thought that it was all a prank. And she said, "Oh, please, this must be some sort of those childish pranks that you see online. Aiden, if this is an elaborate prank on me, tell everyone to stop right now. You know how much I hate childish and insensible things like that." "This is not a prank, Mom. Me and Zoe are hosting a Thanksgiving party this year. We called all our friends and didn't have anywhere to go or couldn't go home. While we were at it, we invited the family as well." "Aiden, don't tell me you support this. Your wife is trying to isolate me because I know the truth about her character. You cannot, in your right senses, support your wife." "Oh, I support her wholeheartedly, Mom. And she isn't doing this to isolate you. This is happening because you tried to isolate my wife from the family by not extending her an invitation. You did us a favor. I like our Thanksgiving party much better than yours. And judging people's faces, they seem happier to be here with us than with you. This is ridiculous. You can't do this. Thanksgiving dinner should be with family." "And? You said my wife is not family, so—" "You two need to stop being petty and let family come to my party. This is getting ridiculous. Have a party for yourselves. I don't care, but you don't get to keep my family members hostage. Let them come over and enjoy the right Thanksgiving dinner." "As you say, Erin, we are not holding anyone hostage. You can call them or ask them to come. They can leave if they want to. They know that already." Erin hung up on us and started to call family members. Most of them ignored her calls, while some picked up only to berate her for being such a nasty piece of shit to me. It all happened in my backyard, so I could see it all and have fun thinking about Erin's panicked face. Well, I didn't have to imagine her face for long. After a long and rather loud conversation with Grandfather, Erin showed up at our door. She was crying and looked really embarrassed. It didn't melt me even a little, and neither was anyone else pleased at her sudden, uninvited appearance. Aiden said, "What do you want, Mom? We are kind of in the middle of something." "That's right. We have a lot of guests over and don't have much time to spare for you. I'm not sure why you're here. Don't you also have